What's up, everybody? I'm Btrue, and today is time for another story time with Btrue as I fix whatever is going on with my hair there. Okay, so last time that I made a video story time with Btrue, it was about my crazy balcony story, and it actually, as of this recording, has no dislikes on it. So pretty much universal support. A lot of people asking me to make more of the storytime videos. Now I know somebody out there is going to go to that video and they're going to click dislike just to be an asshole. But if you're going to do that, at least turn off ad block first. Okay. Anyway, so another story time with Btrue. As I'm sure you can tell from the title, this one is going to be about my first and only actual fight. So we're going to have some fights on in the background here to commemorate the actual fight. So I have been in one official throwdown, one real fight in my life so far. I say so far because you never know. But this is when I was in high school. So a little bit of backstory on me as I was growing up. So as I was growing up, obviously I had red hair, and that kind of made me a little bit of, I don't want to say an outcast, but I was sort of like a target, you know, because kids are just mean to each other. They just are. They form cliques. They're mean to each other. It's all about bullies versus the bullied, okay? And so having red hair actually made me an easy target for people. So I was made fun of a lot as I was growing up, okay? Which led me to be a little bit more on the quiet and the shy side. I had friends. That was, it's not that I didn't have friends. I had my own group of friends, but then there were other kids that would pick on me as I was growing up. And it didn't really it did bother me, but it wasn't anything too terrible. I played football. I had football friends. And then those were kind of the people that I hung out with, and there were the normal people. So fast forward, I'm pretty much used to, kind of being the target it wasn't quite bullying, because it wasn't like bad. It was mostly just verbal bullying, let's say that. As I was pretty much used to being the target of verbal bullying. So I get to high school. We're doing football. I'm actually doing really well. It's my freshman year of football. And as I am making friends and kind of figuring out my way in high school, because when you first get to high school, it's like that. There's a big change that ends up happening, right? So you got to kind of figure out where you fit in and all that stuff. So I end up, again, being the target of verbal bullying from a very specific group of people. And I don't even want to necessarily call it a group. It was mainly just this one guy. And so I was always taught, turn the other cheek, you don't fight people, that kind of stuff. So I just kind of ignored it. Football season comes and goes. So that was September to December, about 4 months or so. And the kid, pretty much every time he saw me, he would, say a bunch of stuff like, you have no friends, nobody wants you at this school, stuff like that. It just pretty much trying to make me feel bad about myself. And so this goes on for a couple months, okay? So football season is over finally, and for some reason, after football season ended, it escalated. I'm not sure. I don't really remember all of the details because this was obviously about almost 12 years ago at this point. So I don't remember all of the details, but for some reason I do remember it escalating. And at this point now, we are somewhere in around January or so. Okay, so I've been in high school it's now the second semester, where we're into pretty much where you are in high school by this point, right? So my schedule changed, and for some reason, the way that my schedule kind of changed around, I was now spending more time near this kid, okay, because of how our class schedules were. So I had to deal with this sort of ramp up in the verbal bullying, and it got more and more hostile and aggressive as it went. And I continued to, not really say anything back to him, not really argue with him, not stand up for myself, just because, I didn't want to have to fight the kid. You know what I mean? And I knew that I could hold my own against him. I just was always brought up from my parents that you don't do that, okay? So it continued like this through January. It started to get more hostile, like I said. The things that he was saying were becoming more and more aggressive. He would tell me to go kill myself, that kind of stuff. You know, he's like, hey, nobody likes you. You don't have any friends. You should just go kill yourself, that kind of stuff, right? Horrible, horrible things to say to somebody, by the way. I do not ever condone somebody saying something like that, okay? So it was getting worse and worse, and it got to the point where I started to get fed up with it. There's only so long that you can get pushed before you push back, especially when I was not somebody who was physically inferior to this person. You know what I mean? So I can understand some people when they get bullied, it is from someone who is more physically imposing, and so you don't have a ton of options in that regard. I did have options. I was physically bigger than this kid. He was taller, but I was bigger. But I didn't want to fight him. And so it got to the point where, as I started to stand up for myself verbally, he started to become more physically combative. So he would, whenever I would talk back to him, he would, stand up out of his chair, puff his chest up, get in my face, that kind of stuff, and actually threaten me and say, like, all right, hey, let's do this, let's fight. I'm gonna kick your ass, blah blah blah. I'm gonna knock your teeth out, all that good stuff. So this started to happen now in February, and if I remember correctly, the actual fight took place in March. I think it would have been about this time of the year. It was like just as the winter was ending and spring was starting. So after a while, I talked to my dad. I didn't talk to my mom because my mom, I didn't think she'd quite understand, but I talked to my dad and I said, hey Dad, I just want to let you know that this is what has been going on. So this is the first time that I actually talked to my dad about this situation. My parents had no clue that this was going on. So we're going on 6 or 7 months now. And so I told my dad, say, hey, listen, I want you to know what has been going on because I might have to, I might get into a confrontation with this kid, and I don't want you to find out about it first by finding out that I got into a fight. Like, I want you to know what's been going on. So I explained the whole situation to him, and I told him what the kid had been saying to me, okay? And my dad said, he appreciated me coming to him first, telling him about the situation. He said he was happy that I respected my parents and that I had not fought the kid, and that I had done pretty much what they had instilled, the values they'd instilled in me, telling me, you don't fight, that kind of stuff. And he said, but there comes a time where you have to stand up for yourself, where enough is enough. And he said, so I don't want you going around fighting people, but this can't continue. And I said, yes, I agree. I can't, I'm fed up with this now. I can't keep, dealing with this all the time. So he said, okay, I don't want you to fight him, but if he gets into your face and threatens you again, then you got to do what you got to do. And I said, all right. So next couple weeks of school were a little on edge for me because I kept thinking in my head, this might be the day. This might be the day that I have to fight this kid. And the bullying didn't stop, but he wasn't quite as aggressive over these next couple weeks, okay? And I didn't want to fight him in school, but I was like, hey, I got to do what I got to do. I don't ever see this kid outside of school. So let's fast forward now. I'm pretty sure, like I said, it was in March. So March comes around. Me and one of my best friends, we go to the movies on a Sunday night because we had off school on Monday. I don't remember what the holiday was. It was one of those weird holidays where you just get a random day off from school. So Monday, we have off from school. It's Sunday night. We go to watch a movie. I remember exactly what movie it was. It was The Condemned with Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you guys don't know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is, you're too damn young and you didn't watch WWF and WWE as it is now. But anyway, so we went to go watch the movie The Condemned with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was an awesome movie. I was super hyped up about it. It was a bunch of fighting and stuff going on in it. So the movie lets out. It's just me and my best friend. We walk outside of the movie theater. We're waiting for my dad to come pick us up because obviously we're only 14 and 15 years old because we're still freshmen. So another movie happened to let out at the exact same time. So this kid was not in our movie, but he was in a different movie. It comes out. I see a bunch of people. Me and my best friend are already outside waiting. I see a bunch of people coming out of the theater, and I recognize a bunch of people that went to my high school. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Saying hi to them. And then I see him walk out. And my immediate thought is, shit. So he sees me as I see him. And just right on cue, he gets super hyped up and aggressive. And basically, like, runs to get up into my face. So now, come on. So now, he is up into my face, chest puffed out, ready to fight. Basically screaming into my face, like on cue, on demand, calling me a pussy, telling me that, you know, all the same stuff, telling me he's gonna knock my teeth out, you know, all this good stuff. So I am sort of in, like, you know, attack mode, fight or flight mode, but before anything ends up happening, his girlfriend comes over and grabs him and, like, pulls him away and you know, basically is like, hey, stop being an asshole, you know, that kind of stuff. At this point, he, like, goes away and he says, you're lucky my girlfriend's here, because she just saved your life. I would have killed you. Right at this moment, not right at this moment, but like a couple seconds later, my dad pulls up. So me and my best friend get into the car with my dad. We start driving home. I'm all amped up, but nothing happened. So as we're driving, I get a phone call from one of my friends who was in the group that went to that movie, right? So he's friends with that kid and me as well. So I get a call from him. I pick up and say, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? All I hear is the bully guy on the other end of the phone screaming into the phone about how I'm a pussy, I ran away from him, about how his girlfriend saved my life because he would have killed me if she wasn't there, and that I should be thanking her for saving my life, all that stuff. So I'm in the passenger seat. My dad's driving. I don't have it on speakerphone. I had it. It was a flip phone. This is before we had iPhones. Okay, this is just a normal flip phone. But he was screaming so loud into the phone that my dad could hear it from the driver's side. Okay, I had it on this side of my head, and he could hear it from the driver's side because he was screaming so loud. My dad heard every word this kid said. So at this point, my dad knew that what I told him was correct. This is the stuff that I had been dealing with that the kid was saying over and over. My dad immediately turns the car around, okay, like 180 in the middle of the street, and he starts speeding up back towards the movie theater. After a couple seconds, he pulls off to the side of the road and stops the car and takes a deep breath. And he says, I can't do this. I'm going to go to jail for beating the shit out of a teenager. And I looked at my dad and I was like, Dad, I won't lose. And he just looked at me. We made eye contact for a little. There was like a moment of silence. He just looked at me. He saw that I was confident that I could handle the situation, and he said, okay, let him know that you're on your way back. So the phone was still on, and I said, hey, I'll change his name. Let's call him Brad. I said, hey, Brad, I'm on my way back. Don't go anywhere. And I hung up. So as we're driving back, the only thing that I am worried about is he's with a large group of his friends, and I only have my best friend. And I said, my best friend's name was Steve. I said, Steve, all I ask is that this is a one-on-one fight. That's it. As long as this is a one-on-one, whatever happens, happens. I was like, don't jump in. I don't want anybody stopping this. I'm like, this needs to be resolved, okay? And my dad was like, he's like, Steve, so Steve was a lineman on our football team. He was a big dude, okay? He could handle these kids, had they tried to stop, and no one's going to screw with Steve. So he goes, yeah, I got you. I said, all right, cool. So we get back there. My dad drops me off. He said, I'm going to go wait at the top of the parking lot. Let me know when you're done. So he drops me off, and he drives away. It's just me, Steve, and the other group of people. Now, it's a Sunday night, so there's nobody at the theater anymore. And we are in a parking lot sort of behind a building next to the theater. Another one of the guys in the group was on my football team as well. So we were really good, the other kids group. So we were really good friends. And his name was Brandon as well. He was another big lineman. And I said, yo, Brandon. He went by Big B. I go, yo, Big B, just make sure nobody else jumps in on this. He goes, I got Steve making sure that nobody jumps in. I go, just make sure nobody else jumps in. Let me handle this. And he goes, I got you. And I said, all right, cool. So now, as you know, I'm sure you've seen, everybody kind of circles up around us. And it's just me and Brad, the bully guy. So we're looking at each other, and we're kind of walking, circling around each other. He's talking a bunch of shit. I'm talking a bunch of shit. And we're just kind of like sizing each other up for a second. And I'm like, hey, Brad, I'm like, dude, throw the first punch. Let's go. Right. So I wanted him to throw the first punch so that it would be, self-defense. So I was like, throw the first punch. Let's do this. And then he also said, he's like, dude, he's like, you got to throw the first punch and then I'm going to murder you. And so we're kind of going back and forth yelling at each other here for a second. And he's, insisting that, and he's like, hey, even just put your hand out there. Just put your hand in front of me, and I'm knocking you out. And I said, okay. So, he's taller than me, like I said. Longer arms. I'm shorter, much stronger. It would be really stupid for me to box this guy, okay? So, I realized he wasn't going to throw the first punch, because as normal, he was a bunch of talk, but mostly a pussy. So I took a deep breath, and I did what I knew best, because I played football. I tackled him. I put my head down, I grabbed him around the waist, I picked him up, and I dumped him down to the ground. On the ground, I have a severe advantage over this guy, because his height means nothing. My strength means everything. So I'm able to hold him on the ground and keep him from going anywhere, okay? So we're on the ground. There's an initial scramble when we first hit the ground. As he tries to roll around to get up, grab him around the neck with my left arm. Okay, so I'm behind him as he tries to roll away, got him by the neck. At this point, I have my right arm is free, which is my dominant arm, right? So I've got him locked here. Behind him, just coming across the side of his face, just cracking him up in the cheek, right? So he gets a hold of my arm, and if I'm being 100% honest here, most of the fight is a blur, which I'm sure if anybody in here has ever been in like a really high stress situation like that, you know that details become very difficult to remember because of the situation. So I don't 100% remember all the details. I just remember being behind him, punching him in the face. He grabbed my arm. There was a point where we had like another kind of scramble, roll around. I got a hold of him again. He, at one point, like, tried to punch backwards, and he punched me in the nuts, which really pissed me off. And when you're that full of adrenaline, you don't feel getting punched in the nuts. So that really pissed me off. But damn it, Gengetsu. So I got my arm free again, and I started punching him again. I rolled him down as he tried to get up, and I got in front, on top of him. When I was on top of him, he did catch me with a pretty good hook, like right under the eye socket. I didn't have a black and blue eye, but I had like a little mark on my cheek. But for the most part, I was dealing most of the damage, and then after what felt like a really long time, but was probably no more than 2 minutes. I mean, if we're being honest with it, because that's how time works, when you're in that situation. I had decided that I had made my point, right? I had manhandled him, just beat him down, and I had made my point, right? So I let go, I got up, and I said, all right, I'm done. And I just started leaving, because that's all. I didn't want to hurt the kid. I didn't want to, knock him out. I just had to prove that I was not going to stand for shit anymore, and that I could handle him, which I did in that fight, absolutely. So he was like bleeding, had a bunch of black and blue eyes and stuff, and he got up because obviously, like I said, I didn't knock him out or anything. I just let him up because I was done. He starts charging after me again as I'm walking away. So as I'm walking away, he hit me from behind. Like he kind of came around and caught me, right? And so then I turned around and it was about to go back after him when some random lady who I guess had seen what was going on screamed out, like the cops are on the way, because she had called the cops. So she was trying to break up the fight. So everybody heard that, and then they all took off. And I got in the car with my dad. Steve, my best friend, got in the car. And, sorry, my nose is itchy. As we're just about to get out of the parking lot, a cop comes in and cuts us off. And he's like, hey, I heard that there were some kids fighting. Now, luckily, it's really dark, so you can't see that my elbows. So because we were rolling around on the ground, I had a short sleeve shirt and shorts on, okay? So my elbows and my knees were really cut up because we were fighting on what's it called? Asphalt, blacktop, whatever you want to call it, cement. So my knees and elbows were real cut up from rolling around on the ground, but it was dark, so he couldn't see that I was like bleeding out of my elbows and stuff. So as my dad's like, my dad looks at the cop and he goes, "What?" He goes, "There better not have been any fighting. I just came to come pick up my son from the movies." The movies had been done for like 2 hours at this point. It was I thought it was a pretty hilarious move for my dad. So anyway, the cop lets us go. And I go home. My mom sees the blood on my elbows and knees and finds out that I was fighting. She was really pissed off, but then that's when I kind of told her about the situation. And then the next day was Monday. So then Tuesday, the first day that we came back from school, I came in and everybody was, cheering for me and clapping and saying, because they saw the videos of it and they heard about it, and they were saying about how awesome it was, and they were glad that because he was a known asshole. So people were happy that had happened, that somebody finally shut this kid up. So it was cool. I felt really good inside because I was like, hey, that's, it actually worked out. I actually taught a bully a lesson, and never had a problem with the kid again for the rest of my high school career. He never talked shit to me again. He never tried to fight me again as a rematch or anything like that. He pretty much left me alone, and then by the end of my high school career, he actually was trying to be friendly towards me. I didn't really want to be friends with him, but he tried to be friendly and start conversations and stuff like that. And then I never had a problem with anybody again. I never got picked on in high school. I never even got close to fighting somebody else because I kind of had I made a reputation for myself. Like people knew that if they were going to act that way towards me, that I would stand up for myself and I was not going to hesitate to fight back. So yeah, high school got so much better from that point on. I mean, I never got picked on. I became more popular and I didn't have to worry about anything. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily the best option for everybody to go down. Like, I don't want to encourage people to go around fighting people, but sometimes, like my dad said, you got to do what you got to do because that's the only way they'll stop. Telling adults is what the school tells you to do, but that's all well and good in theory, but it doesn't always work that way. So sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And yeah, I'm really glad that it turned out that way. So hopefully you guys enjoyed another story time with Btrue. This time it was about my first ever physical confrontation, my first and only fight that I've ever been in. Have not needed to be in one since then, and since then I've gotten to a point physically that people pretty much don't mess with me. So that's pretty cool. That's always fun when you're physically intimidating. It makes life a little bit easier because nobody wants to mess with you. So yeah. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for everybody that supported the last video. If you have not seen the last video, you should go check that one out. It's a really good story. It's nothing to do with fighting. It has actually the exact opposite to do with fighting. It's about a little hotel shenanigans that went on a balcony. So anyway, thank you all for watching all the way through the video. I know this one's a little bit longer, but I wanted to get all the core details, a little bit of story time back and forth with you guys. So hope you guys all had a great time, great weekend. I will try and get back to the normal Naruto Online stuff soon. Anyway, hope you guys have a great day. See you on the next one, and peace.